Okay. Hello there. This is the Real Guardian. I'm just finally getting around to doing my video for the day. Mainly because of a lot of personal reasons. Put simply, I need to make 3 points here. I'm really tired. I'm doing this just so I can get it done for the night. 2, I'm going to mispronounce every freaking name because, as someone once told me, I can't pronounce half the names in a Japanese anime anyways. So if you want to point out how badly I pronounce them, please do, but no, I will not care. Unless you want to send me like an audio file showing me how to pronounce them all correctly. I'll at least accept that. And 3, I'm actually really new to this. Personally, I'm uncomfortable doing this at times, but I know I'll get over it. So now we're going to start with the what if, and if you can't read the title, I'll read it for you. The what if is, what if Fire Force and OC characters met Izuku and My Hero Aka? Hope you guys enjoyed the background, because I tried my best with a thumbnail, and this is the best I could do. Okay, now for some backstory for this is, one of the characters that should appear right in the beginning of this, that will appear right at the beginning. If you don't know who the character is, it's in Fire Force, it's Hinaba. I'm just gonna say Hinaba because Hinabi sounds like the freaking girl from Naruto. So Hinaba. Say Hinaba. Okay, so Hinaba, so she's probably my number 2 waifu pick right now. So go and watch Fire Force. I personally have not caught up with it yet. I saw most of season 1, but anime's been on my back for a long time now. Still, I recommend it. So her powers and any Fire Force character's powers are basically in the anime are their quirks. And with her power, it was called Clematis, I think. She has the ability to shape fire into flower shapes, whether with their hands or fan. Her abilities are the ability to surround someone with cherry blossom trees, with them being flames that can singe the skin on touch or cause harmful cuts. She can control temperature surrounding people, extinguishing certain extra abilities, which I'm going to use this to affect quirks in some way later in the story. And when she develops your body in heat, it's called heat scope. I think it's, yeah, which causes you to be dizzy and you can be subdued. Also, her last name will be Applin, because I like that, and since she does not have a last name. Now, Izuku is going to be different in this, so to put plain, he has been training in martial arts and combat. He actually likes tinkering with machine, and he likes quirks, not heroes. He finds people behind the quirks boring. Though he's still going to be quirkless, this drives him to become stronger, smarter than someone with a quirk, even saying to himself, a true hero always rises to the challenge. Now we're starting out their ages at 4 with Hinabi. She has a mother, and her maid who's only 12 years older than her. She's an OC character. And Deku will have his mother in this, but his father has passed away in this, but when he was a baby, so he really doesn't know about him. Finally, I hope you are going to enjoy this. What if? It's also the last thing to say before starting this. I will go into season 1 of the My Hero anime right now, because I've recently rewatched that. I have not rewatched season 2 or 3, which is where I stopped, was around sometime in season 3. And they're not fresh in my mind anymore, so now that that is all out of the way, let's dive on in. Okay, here's part 1. 1 second. I got my script a little bit better. There we go. A playground is where we start our scene. Katsuki and his gang are playing in the park, and Izuku is currently running to the park. So Hinaba, decided on that, is playing in the sandbox right now. Katsuki is trying to get her attention, and yes, just like in the anime, she's pretty gorgeous, whatever word you want to use for it to use, even at this age. So he's trying to impress her, but she's not even paying attention, just trying to build a sandcastle. So Katsuki, aka Boomer, which I may call him at times, blows it up and says, "Hey, flower, pay attention to me." Now, when this happens, Hinaba starts to get really angry. She starts to activate her quirk, but then a green hair boy, aka Izuku, slides in front of her, and then Izuku says, "It's not nice to bully others, Kachan." I'll probably be using that sparingly. Katsuki then says with a smirk, so the quirkless loser wants to play hero. He smacks his hand, causing an explosion. His gang activates their quirks. It's the one with the that can grow the wings, another one that grows out his fingers. But is Izuku cracking his knuckles, pulling out a device from his backpack and smiling and saying, "Yep, get ready for the heroic beatdown." This is then causing Katsuki to twitch with anger. He then rushes at Izuku screaming, "You're dead, you worthless deku." He throws an explosion with his fist, but as soon as he gets near Izuku, he quickly sidesteps it and then grabs Katsuki's fist. He then punches him as hard as he can and then flips him on his back, nearly knocking him out. His gang then charges at him. The wing guy tries to swoop in on him and grab him. He turns on the device and it wraps around his hand. It looks like bandages, but it swirls around his hand and arm, and he hits a button, causing a spark to come out. He then sidesteps again, grabbing the kid's wing, and he shocks him with his electric glove. And while he's paralyzed by electricity, he punches him as hard as he can into his back, knocking him out. The guy now with the long fingers is trying to stretch out his fingers to grab Izuku, but Izuku jumps back, and before the kid can stretch back his fingers, Izuku hits a button on his device, causing the bandage to wrap around the kid's hands, tying him up. He then hits another button. It shocks him unconscious. After this, he retracts it back over his hand and arm, and then Katsuki gets up coughing, saying, "Through it all, Deku, cough. How cough are you this cough, strong cough, you're cough, quirkless." Izuku then answers, "Just because I am quirkless does not mean I can't learn how to fight and build things to make up for it." He smiles and tells Kachan, "Get you and your trash out of here before I knock you out as well." Yes, this version of Izuku is actually confident. Shocker, right? Katsuki then just grinds his teeth and says, as running away, "This is not over, Deku." Now, while all this is happening, Hanaba, as again I don't know how to pronounce any of this, was watching it in amazement at this kid as he beated up kids his age, and the device he had was way too advanced to be made by someone his age, she thought. That's what she was thinking. But that train of thought got kind of broken when Izuku just walked up to her and offered her hand, saying, "Are you okay? By the way, my name is Izuku Midoriya." She then clears her throat and says, "I don't need the help, but my name is Hanabi Alpin." She then takes his hand and stands up. Then Izuku says to her, "Well, I know not everyone needs help, but if you're ever in trouble, I'll come rushing over and be your hero, okay?" Upon hearing this, like in the anime, and I'm doing this with just for the fun of it, hearts form in Hanabi's eye, cross eyes, as you know, she has cross eyes. Seriously, just watch the anime, it's good. She then closes them and thinks to herself, "He has to be the one." My heart's pounding out of control. When she reopens them to see Izuku staring deeply into them, causing her to blush, she then says, "Wow, your cross eyes are beautiful, and not to mention you are too." He says this while rubbing the back of his neck, blushing. It's hard. In Hanabi's mind, he's thinking, "I'm beautiful. We're like already husband and wife, soon we'll be holding each other in arms while I am cooking," and he's telling me all about his day. She thinks this while holding her face while her blushing is getting redder. While this happens, a voice she wished never returned called out to her, saying, "Young princess." Then both, she and Izuku turn to see, and we're using anime terms here, a very thick, curvy, very pretty young teenage woman in a maid outfit walk up to them. Hanaba then stares at her, seeing that Izuku is blushing at the sight. It then angers her beyond all reason for a moment. She doesn't know why it's happening so quickly, and she calms herself quickly, he's just reacting to her with her coming near us. Sorry. Let's flip that line, and crap, script just flipped. 1 second. Oh my god, stop this. And with an escalated tone, she says, "What is it, Abigail?" Now, in a very angry tone coming out, since she knows what Abigail is going to say. "It's time to go home. Your mother's meeting is about to be done." She then bows to Izuku and says, "Hello, my name is Abigail Riley. I'm the maid in service to the young princess, and I thank you for protecting her from those idiots." Izuku then blushes, but then shakes his head and replies back with, "No problem, and my name is Izuku Midoriya." Then looking at Hinaba, then he's saying, "So you're a princess." Now, his only thought in this moment as well as she's now out of my league, and probably has someone she's engaged to, he's thinking, with a long sigh in his own head. But then Hinaba speaks up saying, no, she just likes calling me that since I'm beautiful like a princess to her. Abigail then chuckles to say, well, it's true. Now, young Master Adora, I apologize, but we must be going now. I hope you have a wonderful day. Izuku then responds with, no problem. He has to go as well. He then turns to Hinaba and says, I hope to see you again one day soon. He then gives her a big happy smile and runs off, with Hinaba staring until he gets out of her sight and then really depressed all of a sudden. With Abigail now in her head, thinking, oh no, she's not only in love, but she's completely smitten with the boy. Also, the lady, which is this Tsunami's mother, just for you people that need that context, will at first not like it, but if she gets to know the boy for his technology skills, she's going to adore him. She then smiles, taking Hinaba's hand, walking into the car parked not far away. As they're driving, Abigail sees Hinaba just sitting there in her seat, twirling her hair, whispering Mrs. Midoriya underneath her breath while blushing. With a very happy face, Abigail then sighs, saying, she really has it bad. She then speaks up, so are you in love with that boy, or is it just a crush? Hinaba then says, it's not love or a crush, I'm just going to be his future wife, he's my beloved Izuku. Abigail then sighs in her head, yep, she's completely smitten with him. And I'm happy for her, but very sad for him, because his future love life has now been decided, and she will stop at nothing to make him hers. She then clears her throat to say to Hinaba, if that's the case, we'll have to talk to the lady and this boy's family. She then sees Hinaba frown intensely, saying only this, all right, mother. Biting her thumb with this, the car pulls up to a massive skyscraper building. It then goes into an underground parking lot. The car stops in a parking place in front of a massive gated door. The car starts to be scanned in a red light. As it scans, it stops, scans Abigail, and goes green. It continues to move along. It then stops on Hinaba. It scans her, goes green. It then finishes scanning the car, turning green. Then a barrier forms around the car and the gated area. Then it opens, letting them in. Abigail then drives into one of the open car spaces. Once she parks it, then she gets out and walks to the car door, opening it, then saying, you are now home, Princess Hinaba. Hinaba getting out of the car and just making a tick noise, then said out loud, I want Izuku now home. Then Abigail says, I know you want him, but everyone needs a home, princess, with a light chuckle. Hinaba then sighs and groans as they walk to the elevator. Abigail places her hand on a pad. It's a scanner. She then places her eye in front of another scanner. It says approved. Then the elevator door opens. They push the only button on the panel. It starts to shoot upward until it reaches the top floor. The elevator opens and it says, welcome home. They walk out and it shuts and locks behind them. With this, Abigail then says, your mother will be home in about an hour, so if you can, tell me all you know about the young Master Midoriya. It will be helpful to convince her. She then explains what she knows and she's put together from that fight. With this, Abigail says thank you, and now she sends a princess to her room. She'll get some snacks ready for her before her mother gets here. She then walks to the kitchen, making some apple slices with a caramel dip and having a small cup with assorted berries ready. She then walks to Hinaba's room and knocks on the door saying, my princess, I'm leaving your snack outside. Please eat it while I'm talking to your mother. She then walks towards the elevator. She then checks her watch, saying, okay, she'll be here in about 2 minutes. She's standing next to the door on the right. And after 2 minutes, it opens. Abigail then bows, saying, welcome home, Lady Ariel. Yes, I'm using the Little Mermaid name because with OC characters, I'm trying my best to have names I can remember and actually pronounce. Because trust me, I flubbed Kevin. I sometimes say Kevin. What's wrong with me? Okay, back to the story. Then the tall woman turns her head and tells her, so what has happened with my Hinaba? I want a full status report on my angel. Abigail, right ahead of the line. She then starts to have an adoring, happy smile face on her, with Abigail saying to herself, thinking, a doting parent. She says to herself again, she's probably going to want to kill the boy who tried to attack Hinaba, but she's going to use Midoriya as an asset if I know her like I do. She then follows her to the living room, grabbing a wine bottle out of a cabinet with a wine glass. She walks up to the small coffee table. As usual, places the glass down, opens it up, starts pouring it, and she hands it. to Ariel. And after she takes her first sip, she clears her throat and says to her, "Here is today's report. Reporting for you today after you left Hinaba." She went straight to her chemistry work in her room. In an effort to get her outside to get an air and a break, I took her to a nearby playground. Now, I left her on her own devices to take a cell phone call from one of your clients to explain that you were working in a meeting and to call the office line. As I was doing that, three young boys entered the park. From there, one tried to get Hinaba's attention. When that didn't work, he tried using his quirk to get her attention. Then, as on cue, like I had expected, the lady's anger and killing intent flared up in her. Thinking to myself, I need to quickly finish this story before she kills someone. She then says to her, but when I was about to intervene into the situation, a fourth young boy stepped in. He used some martial arts skills and a device to stop them. He was able to defeat them with relative ease, given his age. He then offered his hand to help Hinaba up. After hearing this, the lady's aura calmed down. Then I cleared my throat, then saying to myself, okay, Midoriya, I'm sorry to set your fate like this, but this has caused an issue with Hinaba. She has fallen in love with this boy and is completely smitten with him to the point where she said she's even his future wife. I then braced for the storm, both physically and mentally. First, the late anger was beyond anything I've seen from her over the years. But she got a puzzled look on her, which I was expecting, given how I know her so much. She realized maybe something could be used here. Then she said, okay, do you know the boy's name? That's what I want to know first. I then answer her by saying his name is Izuku Midoriya. The lady then asks, what's his quirk? Then I answer that he's quirkless. The lady then gives a quick shocked reaction, but then goes back to that puzzled look of thinking she has. Then she asks, his skills of martial arts and the device rate for me. I have to clear my throat. Then I say to myself, Midoriya, I am now nailing the final nail into your coffin, and I'm sorry. His skill level in martial arts is a little above a beginner, but his reaction time is at least in the middle, surprisingly. In his thought process, I'd put him at near an expert level, just because how he's able to think so quickly on his feet. And the device he seems to use, it seems to be his creation. I'd put it at genius level, maybe super, but if I had more information and I was actually standing nearby to actually see it better. With that, the lady gives a small devilish smile, then saying, that's high praise coming from you. So overall, what would you say his potential is? And I gave her an answer. I believe he has unlimited potential of growth if given the right training. I say even quirkless, he could rival All Might with that. Just his technology alone. The lady then lets out an insane laugh, then saying, then I must meet this boy very soon. I want you to get all I need in a week so I can assess him. And tell my Hinaba she gets to see him soon. And if he passes my test, he will be hers. With that, she waves me off to tell the princess, your fate has been sealed now, young Midoriya. I then knock at her room door, after bending down to pick up the empty plate as I ask her to come out. I then tell her what her mother has said. She's about to meet him again. With tears in her eyes, she hugs and thanks me and smiles so brightly that my heart skips a beat. She then lets go, and I told her that she has to prepare for an assignment. I have to prepare for an assignment. The princess just nods. With that said, now it's time to get ready, Midoriya, for I will learn all I can for the lady and princess. Now we're going to be with Izuku again. As Izuku is running to his martial arts dojo for the afternoon lessons, he walks in to see his new friend Ojiro. Yes, Ojiro from 1A. Like, he's a martial artist. I just threw him in here because why not? He then runs up to him and pats him right on the back. They start talking about their day as they get dressed for class. As they were sitting down waiting to spar, with the instructor giving his lessons and even planning to spar with them, they start talking. Izuku then says, I met the most beautiful girl today, with a smile and a very light brush. Then Ojiro then asks, oh really, what's her name? Maybe I should get to know her too, saying with a cheeky smirk. Izuku then gives him a slightly pissed off look, then saying, her name is Hinaba, and no, I won't let you know her. She's my new friend first. Ending it with a jealous tone. Ojiro then lets out a small chuckle, saying to him, "Chill, Izuku, I'd never take a friend's crush." Izuku really gets flustered, saying out loud without meaning to, "Hey, I don't have a crush." Izuku realizes that he just said that out loud, with the instructor then saying, "Well, if you're talking about girls is more important than my sparring and my lessons, it seems you're next, Izuku." Izuku then gasps, thinking, "Dang it." Then he looked at Ojiro with a satisfied smile. Then he realizes he set me up. Okay, I'm getting your butt kicked as well later, Ojiro. He then gets to the mat and their sparring session begins. After that, he sits down, rubbing his sore arms, legs, and lower back from all the exercises. He then gives a glare to Ojiro. Then Ojiro gulps, because he's actually realized what Izuku's about to do to him. They've all been friends for a short while, but he kind of figured out how Izuku ticks to some extent. Izuku then saying out loud, "Ojiro, you think Sensei's easy to beat and I'm weak? Really? Why don't you try it?" The teacher, hearing this, then says, "Okay, you're next." Ojiro starts tearing up a bit as he walks away. Izuku thinking, "Karma's a mother. Remember that, Ojiro." He smiles as he sees Ojiro getting his butt kicked. They then get to miss, and as they're getting changed, Ojiro grumbles about not pulling that kind of stun against Izuku again. And Izuku's thought was good, he's learning. He chuckled to himself, and he finished getting changed, running out and waiting on Ojiro. As they're walking, Ojiro then starts the conversation again. "So that girl you're talking about, was she that beautiful?" Izuku just nods his head yes. Ojiro then says, "Well, you're one lucky guy, so how did you meet her?" After that, Izuku explained what had happened, and after hearing all that, Ojiro took a thinking pose with his hands and his body language, and then saying, "Seriously, your childhood friend is not just a jerk, but an idiot." Izuku responds, "Well, yeah, but I think he could be a good hero if you just let that ego and that narcissism that gets the better of him let go." Ojiro nods to this as they get a fork in the road and they both say goodbye to each other. Izuku gets home and he unlocks the door to his apartment. When he walks in, he takes off his shoes. He walks to the table to see a note from his mom and dinner wrapped up. He reads the note telling him that she'll be gone for most of the day because of a last-minute call from work. That Izuku sighs. "Okay, I'll tell her later if I'm not too tired." Izuku grabs his dinner, warming it up. He then eats it. After that, he just goes to his room and opens the door. It's basically like it was in canon, minus like he has a place to train and a workbench area to build stuff. He even has his extra inventions stored away at the bottom in there. So he picks up his notebook and he has two. It's the invention and a quirk one, but right now we're just dealing with the invention one. He starts to write down an idea he got while finding Kacchan this time. What if he could generate a barrier to stop his explosions or contain it to lessen the damage? He then started to sketch out some base designs and ideas on how to get it to work, as Izuku was consumed by it. He didn't realize that time was going by, and all of a sudden he heard the words, "I'm home." Realizing it's his mom, and when he looked at the clock, he went, "Oh, she's going to chew me out for still being up at like 8 p.m. Izuku sighs, and then he gets out of his room, saying, "Welcome back, Mom." She then gives Izuku a smile, but with an intense aura of death surrounding it, saying, "Oh, thanks, sweetie, but why are you still up when you should be asleep?" Izuku sweats a bit, clears his throat. "Well, I lost track of time, but I really wanted to tell you about my day, since I had school tomorrow." Also, Izuku's smart and not dense. I'm playing this out here now for a later part in the story. She then Nico just takes a deep breath, saying, "Okay, but as soon as you do, you take a bath and go straight to bed, young man." Izuku nodded. He then takes his mom's work bag and puts it on the table, grabbing snacks out of the cabinet, then getting 2 drinks out of the fridge. Then he brought it to the table. He sat next to his mom, handing her a snack and drink. She then thanked him. They ate a little bit and drank together, since they could spend some time together. But she decided they needed to have their talk. So she cleared her throat, and she then asked, "So what did you want to tell me about, Izuku?" Then he told her about his day, but made sure to say that him and Kacchan just had a little spat. Like a little fight, but not that bad. But not to really tell her that he basically kicked his butt. But he's got a disapproving look from her, and he then apologizes for fighting. But then he tells her this: "I saw and met the most beautiful girl today. She's really nice to me, honestly. If I ever met her again, it'd be hard not to ask her to be my wife, to be honest." Inko was completely shocked. He's 4, she's your little boy, he met a girl his age, yet he said he wanted to marry her that quickly. In a sense, she's both devastated and happy he's growing up, but she's more or less more devastated because he's growing up a bit too fast to her. But she kind of chalks it up to his intellect. Since after all, she knows he's smart and she just doesn't know how smart he is yet. But she was wondering what the girl's name was, so she asked, okay, so who's the name of my future daughter-in-law? She said this with a cheeky smile, chuckled, and basically meant it as a joke. Izuku got nervous and blushed a lot, saying her name is Hinaba Alpin. She's pretty and she's beautiful like a princess. Iko then thought to herself, Alpin, why does that sound so familiar? She then pushes it out of her head for now, then asks, so is there anything else you want to tell me, Izuku? He responds with, the usual, with class, but I'm going to the dump part of the beach to get some parts tomorrow on a new invention. Iko then smiles and says, it's okay, now finish your snack, drink, get a bath, and go to bed. So Izuku said okay. He then quickly did what he said he would do. He ate, drank, got in a bath, and he was down in bed by 9 o'clock and asleep. Okay, now we're kind of this is school with Izuku. And a certain maid you know is getting info that a certain lady wants. Now, she's going to watch him as much as she could for the next week, since she still has the job as the maid. Now, we then cut into the classroom with Izuku dueling down into his adventures notebook. And thanks to some advanced binoculars, listening equipment, and some other things, our maid is able to see, hear, and know what's going on. Now, she wonders to what she's looking at when she sees him drawing in the notebook. It looks to be a brace for arm, and wonder what the boy intends to do with this invention, because she's assuming it's an invention given what Izuku showed earlier. As Izuku is doing this, though, he sets his killing intent, coming towards him quickly. He puts the notebook back, grabbing the armband device, and since he already had it charged up yesterday, he has to let it start charging right now. And so it starts charging up with electricity. Then Katsuki swings down with an explosion at his desk, but Izuku catches it with his hand and flips Katsuki onto his desk. He then pounds him with the armband with a 2% charge shock in the right place, shocking him just enough to cause him to pass out. He then picked him up by his feet and dragged him back to the seat. And every kid in class just stayed quiet, and some are just trembling in fear, since they had heard they should not piss off Izuku anymore, since the rumors he beat Katsuki just were swirling around, and now that just got proven right in front of him. And with that, our certain maid Abigail was chuckling, thinking to herself, so he knows how to sense killing intent. Well, I think he's going to be a perfect student for me later if the lady lets me. She even gives a small sadistic smile. Now, coming back to the class, the teacher walks in to see Katsuki passed out on his desk and then shouts on him like, hey, Katsuki, wake up, it's time for class. With that, he jolts awake, realizing what happened, and is getting even more angry and pissed off at Izuku. The teacher then says, we have a treat for you guys. We got 3 new students joining us today. As usual, the class got excited about the new students, wondering if they were boys, girls, or could there be a mixture of both. After a while of the class doing that, the teacher just calmed it down and told them to enter. Now, the following girls are 3 of them from the Fire Force, and I'm going to give a description on them because honestly, I had time to do that when I was re-editing this one. To point out, I've also edited this thing over for a week, so I do not want to edit anymore and get this video out, so I'm just going to try my best to keep going the story and just occasionally stopping to might explain something. So back to it. So who walks in are 3 girls. And they write down their names on the chalkboard and introduce themselves. The short blonde-haired one with pretty blue eyes was wearing the nun habit on her head and the simple nun clothes. She introduced herself as Iris Luna. I've also had to give Iris a last name because she doesn't have one. I'm also going to have to give her a quirk because what little bit I read on a wiki page says she has a fire ability, but it's not really explained well. And maybe one of you guys could explain that to me. But I think I gave her a pretty cool quirk, in my opinion. Her quirk, I'm calling it Phoenix Prey. It allows her to heal people and protect them with flames and can completely negate damage for a short period of time. She has to do this while praying, though, but later on she won't have to do that with the quirk, because as anyone who knows My Hero Aka knows, quirks can evolve and all that good happy stuff. Then the next person to introduce themselves is a girl with black hair and twin tails and very pretty orange eyes. She's wearing a short black dress, and she said her name is Takami Kotsutsu. I might just call her Tama, just so that's something I can actually pronounce. And her quirk, which I'm actually going to do something funny with hers, was a half and half quirk. Her first part is her ability in the actual anime with her fire power. She's able to surround herself in pink flames that form into cat-like traits. It allows her to go up to 4 tails, increase her agility, mobility. She can go all fours, and she can generate fire blasts from it. But here's the fun part. Anyone who's watched the anime knows what I'm about to do. Also, the other part of her quirk is called perverted situations. Basically, it causes her to get in perverted situations. She got it from her dad, so when she was saying this, it was really embarrassing. She prefers just calling her quirk Nekomenata, which I think is the proper noun name that she gives it. If I read on the wiki that when I was doing all this right. But as you can guess, one of the boys just says like perv. No, it's more like perv Neko under his breath. Izuku just personally sighs and just goes, "Really?" At that moment, the final girl introduces herself. It was a girl with dark brown hair. It was down near her shoulders, and she had pretty violet eyes, Izuku thought. Most of this is from Izuku's point of view, just to make sure you know that. She was wearing a white t-shirt, cargo pants. She then said her name was Mika Azui. She then told them about her quirk, and I'm going to give her kind of a half and half too, just because I can do that. This is my wife. So her quirk was a half and half ability to control flames and change their shape and density. She could also make them into flame spirits. Basically, what she does in the anime, and is able to, I think if I remember correctly, able to like extinguish it somehow or make it weaker. Can't remember really what that part was. I probably should double check the wiki on that. So she calls that part of her quirk flame spirits. She also has a strength enhancing quirk that can triple her strength, and I think later on I might make it where it can go all the way up to like 6 times her strength through training, but right now it's just a triple multiplier. And overall, it's called Power Spirits, is what her quirk's name is. They then bow, and the teacher tells them to take a seat next to our boy Izuku. They ask who that even was, and just then Izuku raises his hand and they went to take a seat with him. They start their lesson after getting to the lunch break. Izuku offers to show him the lunchroom and maybe around a bit. They all agree to it since they think Izuku's a really nice guy since he was helping them out getting caught up with the lessons and classes earlier, and he was able to do it so easily it kind of shocked them. So when they walk to the lunchroom, when they get in there and get the headline, the lunch lady, which I'm going to put there's a lunch lady in this, actually says hi to Iris and calls her little sister Iris. "How is the church doing today?" she asks. She then responds to her it was doing good, and after that, they all got their lunch. And when they sat down, Izuku honestly just asked her the question, "So, are you a sister in the church?" And Iris answers, "Kind of. I lived there since I was abandoned. There as a baby, and I wanted to pay them back. They also want me to go to normal school to make friends with other people than Tama and Maki." Izuku says, "Wow, that's so cool that you have friends like that with amazing quirks." They look at Izuku, and like this $1,000,000 question pops in their head. Like they're like, "Do you like quirks, Izuku?" And then answers, "Yes, it's like a hobby and a passion for him." Oh, and they say, "Oh, that's really cool." They said that to him, but they were trying to ask what his quirk is when a group of boys across from him, they noticed one of them in particular walked up from the group to grab Iris's hand. And you know where this is going, anyone that's watching anime. Says to her, "Well, Iris, it's been a while. I don't see you at church services lately. When I ask, they say you're helping the head nun or whatever with things." He gives a creepy grin as he's trying to take Iris away while she's basically having a face of complete fear and is trembling. And before Tama or Maki can react, because I'm just picking what I can pronounce, Izuku appears right behind them, saying to him, "She clearly doesn't like you, and what you're doing is wrong, and if you don't stop, I will make you." He then laughs and saying what a quirkless loser like him can do. Izuku literally just gets the most devilish grin he's ever given when he's told this. He quickly slams his fist so hard in his face that when he sends him back, he hits the table and instantly gets knocked out. He then grabs Iris's hand and pulls her a tight hug and asks if she's okay because he wants to try to comfort her. Giving a quick nod to that, Izuku then says, "Such a pretty flower person, because her name is Iris, like you shouldn't get hurt or deal with creeps like that." And like with Hinabi, hearts form in Iris's eyes, and she's just blushing so heavily, and she doesn't know why she's feeling like this. She doesn't want Izuku to let her go right now for some reason, but her chest is pounding like crazy. Then Izuku, still being a bit of an he may be confident, but he's still that innocent cinnamon roll, realizes what he's doing and let go and says sorry. He says he got caught up in the moment. Iris says to him, "It's no problem," but then Tommy and Aki asks, "Izuku, so are you really quirkless?" Izuku then said, "Yeah, I am." They give a shocked expression because, "How are you so fast and strong, Izuku?" Then saying through a blush or two, "Oh, I've been training myself after all. I still want to be a hero even without one." He gives them all a big smile and they just sit down to finish eating. They go back to the classroom, and after a while, the teacher gets a phone call saying to the class it's time for a quick recess before we finish the afternoon classes. So you guys can go home and play on the. So you guys can go home. So go play on the playground for a bit. I'm sorry, it's an important family call. It'll be done 40 minutes, I think. The whole class goes outside, and all the new girls go with Izuku, and they start playing around the sandbox. They're building up the sandcastles, and as they're building them, Tama just wants to go grab a shovel that's a couple feet away. And in the box, she grabs it, but she's walking back. You know what's about to happen. She slips and lands on Izuku's face, with her skirt. So he's seeing everything right now. And she's already starting to cry a bit because she slipped and fell. And then Izuku starts tapping her. And when she realizes what happened, she gets up and starts crying harder, saying sorry over and over again, and that she just hates her dad's quirk at times because of this. She still loves her dad, but she hates what his quirk does to her some days. But Izuku and the other two calm her down, and they chime in saying, "Hey, don't they have?" They try to calm her down, but Izuku then thinks about it, chiming in that, "Hey, don't they have quirk canceling tech?" All the girls say, "Yeah, but it negates the whole quirk from what I know." 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Crap. I had to pick up and move something for my dog, so it's moving around. Okay. So then Izuku says, "What if we just make something that only cancels like half a quirk instead of the whole quirk? And you can actually pick which one it does that to. Or negate it, whatever you want to put it." It's honestly an amazing invention idea. He then pulls out a pen and a piece of paper from pocket and starts making a sketch. It causes the girls just to get curious and they ask, "What are you doing?" They respond with a smile. "Oh, this, I also make things since I'm quirkless. I have to make up for it somehow." And what I'm thinking is a device that should, in theory, if I make it right, let you cancel your perverted quirk half and keep your fire half. After hearing this, Tama's eyes form into hearts again because then she thinks, "Okay, I'm happy, but what is this feeling I'm feeling in my chest?" She shakes her head and goes up to Izuku and thanks him, and he gives her a smile and she blushes. Iris does well seeing Izuku's smile. And then let's just say Abigail's still watching, and Abigail has this to say: "Well, see what she's seen so far. And by getting two girls in one day, the young Master Midori is quite the player, apparently. She didn't peg him for that." Then they get called back in by the teacher, and they walk back in, and just as they're walking and talking a little did they know, sorry, I misread that, Izuku and them know, sorry, I'm slurring and I'm misreading it. Katsuki was just staring with complete rage and anger, saying to himself, why does he get all the girls? Okay, 1 second, guys. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. My dog's pitching a fit right now. I don't know why, other than I have food. So, as I was saying, let me get back to it. Okay, I'm just gonna continue. Because Katsuki basically says, "Why does he get all the girls?" So, when the last bell rings or whatever, and before Izuku or the girls or anyone can really get up, Katsuki just walks up to him and saying that So you girls like a loser that can't help themselves when you should be hanging out with a god like him. The girls then just give Katsuki a look of disgust. They say they would never hang out with a gross guy or pig like him, even if he was the last boy on Earth. Katsuki got visibly angry and shouted at them, "Yeah, I wouldn't want to hang out with a weird perverted cat, a wilting weed, and an ogre." All the girls got angry, but that's when, if you know the anime, Maki heard ogre and her rage knew no bounds. Seeing this, Zuko activated his device. He quickly jumped between the two of them. So as Maki's punch would have connected, Izuku catched her fist, barely able to stop it, and still standing as the pain from her force of her punch, because how strong it was, nearly broke his arm and his hand at the same time. He coughed up a little blood from the knockback, and you can see Katsuki actually running away. Maki then sees what she did and starts to mutter the word sorry over and over again. Basically, she pulls what a canon Izuku would do. And she's doing this to Izuku. And Iris then heals him, and Tommy just acts if he's okay. He simply says he's alright, but Maki just can't seem to let go for some reason. Repeatedly bowing and saying sorry until Zuko finally just had enough and grabbed her shoulder and made her look at him, saying to her, "Hey, Maki, it's alright. I just wanted to save an idiot that doesn't know what he's saying," in his rage. "After all, your girls are all princesses to me, especially you, Maki." He gives her a really bright smile, and just then, again, Maki's eyes go to heart shaped for a second. She then thinks, why is her chest pounding? And why does Izuku look cuter? So they all start to blush because he basically really complimented him. Then Izuku tells him that we'll get to see him tomorrow. He runs out of school, and Abigail's her 2 cents on this is 3. Naughty boy, young Master Midoriya. Izuku waves goodbye to the girls, and Abigail's close behind, wondering where he's going. And we cut to the beach, where All Might trains Izuku. As Izuku bolts down into the beach, it started to go through the trash, finding parts for the new barrier brace that he's making and other projects, but he's mainly focusing on that one. He realizes while in class, he should just make it an absolute barrier. Not only to stop it from hurting you and containing it and lessening the damage, but what if he could transfer it all into energy into a weapon? He smiles with glee because he's just loving the idea, while Abigail's still watching, is wondering why he, in a sense, she knows he's trying to invent something, but why scavenge all this stuff? She knows he's a kid and he has to do this all on his own, basically, but to her, it shows such a drive to achieve. She thought that it made her smile. Then a young girl who was ironically going through a pile nearby was wiping sweat off her forehead, and she turns to see a kid. In her head, she's saying she's at least 3 years younger than me. She tosses her stuff in the bag and just decides to walk up to him and say hi. She then stretches out her hand, and Izuku looks up to see a young girl older than him. She has red hair and a ponytail with bright-looking orange eyes, he thinks. She's wearing a green t-shirt and blue jeans, and he just thought it's kind of cool he met 2 people with the kind of same color eyes to him. He then shakes her hand, saying the usual, "My name is Izuku Midoriya. It's nice to meet you." "So, who are you?" She then answered him, "Well, I'm Lisa Sorbari?" Lisa, we're just going to call her Lisa. They then break the handshake. She then asks Izuku, "Why are you here? Since I don't really see many people hanging around here unless it's to dump illegal stuff." Izuku then answers, "I'm just trying to make an invention." She gives him an inquisitive look with a wild-ass grin that even Izuku's freaked out and afraid of. She then says, "So you make things. So, what have you made, Izuku?" He then shows her the device he's been using basically this whole story. She then tells him it's really cool and amazing how it works. He then says to her, "Yeah, it's kind of my main thing I'm using right now, but I got more stuff at home. I'm trying to get parts for a new project." She then tells him she's also doing it since stuff just washed up here, it gets dumped, and they kind of both nod in agreement that that's why they're both even here. Then as she walks away to get what she was looking for, she then sees Izuku trying to pull a piece of metal out of the pile. She then slides her hand in a sneaky way to send him flying as the metal shot out of the pile. He was pulled along a bit, and she starts bursting out laughing. But to her surprise, Izuku, like Black Clover, the Wizard King style, darts up to her so fast with a sparkle in his eye that it kind of freaked her out. And then he asked her what her quirk was. Was it magnetism or something? Kind of shocked he wasn't mad at her for doing that. She then cleared her throat, saying, "Kind of. See, my quirk is a half and half quirk." Basically, again, using their powers, and honestly, because she has a magnetism element to her power, that's why it's a half half. Basically, she has the ability to form flaming tentacles, and she has the ability of an octopus in that sense. She has a magnetic part for quirk, allowing her to draw magnetic items too. She can bend the magnetic field around her as well. Zuko thinks that is amazing. She then, like the other girls, asks, "Do you love quirks, Izuku?" Because he's kind of obsessed, she says to her head. And he says to her, "Yeah, since I'm quirkless, I need to know everything about them to help improve them or to beat them." With her own thought process, she said, "The guy has to be yes, right?" That Speedy showed. Like it was stronger than a normal person, but maybe just strong enough to be a really weak quirk. Maybe doesn't realize he has it. Well, he'd probably know if he did. So she just discards it, and then he asks her something, him personally, and she says, "What is it?" He asks, "Has she invented anything?" She smiles, and pulling out a small device out of her pants pocket, she clicks a button, and Izuku's watching intensely once she does it. It causes a screen to light up with a bunch of different prompts, and she scrolls through it and picks one, and the metal gears on it appear. And all the gears in a small radius are being pulled towards the device. It causes Izuku to ponder for a moment, and then he says, "Oh, I get it. This is designed to pull small metal objects or that you choose from the screen, and I guarantee you designed it to be amplified by your magnetic part of your quirk." He then smiles pretty happily, and like before, Art's kind of forming her eyes, and Lisa's like, "Okay, what?" She thought to herself, he took one look and knew what it did. Like, he's insanely smart. Like, how does he not have a quirk? And why is my chest pounding all of a sudden? She shook it off and gave Izuku a smile, saying, "You are correct. That's what it does, but I kind of have to get back home, so I'll see you later." And she decides to call him Chibi Izuku. So she waves and walks away, but Izuku goes, "Chibi, really? I know I'm small because I'm young, but I'm not that small," puffing out his chest a bit. Now, while all this is happening, Abigail was watching, thinking to herself, "Wow, 4 girls in basically the span of 2 days. You're quite a pimp, Midoriya." That's going to be kind of hard to explain to the lady and princess, but she was caught off by her thought process because she got a text it was time to go back, help out the princess, and get back to work that wasn't involving this. She already thought she had enough for today, so she just left. As we cut back to Izuku filling up that scavenger bag of his, he has a smile, he tosses it over his back, runs home to his workbench, and gets started on that bracelet. Now, this is kind of what he's been doing for the past days. He talks to all the girls, hangs out during school, builds machines, and at times fights Katsuki. Now, Katsuki's actually starting to get better at fighting back, but Izuku keeps beating him. Whether it's just before school or during lunch break, he just gets his butt whooped. He also goes to martial arts class in the afternoon when he's not scavenging for the parts. And he's already made a working prototype, and it's a Mark IV. Yes, I'm pulling a Tony Stark because, let's be honest, that just sounds cool right now. But if it works like he wants to, he's going to love it. And then Abigail has been watching him like for the whole week, this whole time, because it's been about 5 days. It's basically been a week, and he basically, with all those girls, he was basically stealing their hearts, being a playboy without realizing. She chuckles a little bit since it's and especially ever since that happened, especially with Tama, every time something perverted happens, and as long as it just involves Izuku, she says it's okay as long as it's him, which seems to cause him to blush a lot. But the other girls are trying to stop it from happening all the time. But most of the time, when it does, and they can't, they start getting jealous about it. And it seems that young Miss Abigail's been seeing it, started to show up to the trash dump more just to talk to Izuku. I she even jokes to herself like, "What if his quirk is Heart Stealer or something?" But she decides to think on that. But what she's been given and seen, she wants to see that test for that prototype, and she knows what he's going to do. He's most likely going to test it out tomorrow morning, so it'll be the last day of the week. So now we cut back to Izuku. Now, because where he's at, I'm just going to use the belt system because it's easier for me. He has an orange one, and Ondra gets a green. They both congratulate each other since they moved up, and after that, Izuku runs off to the woods to test out the device. He doesn't realize Abigail and someone else was following him. We cut to the front of the forest near a clearing as Izuku starts the device since he has to let it warm up to even get it to start, since it's still in its early stages. But then he hears a scream. Deku, I am going to kill you right now. And as we find out, Katsuki was also following him. He dashes towards Izuku. Now, Izuku's not off guard at all, completely thanks to Kachan's stupid ego, pride, and him thinking that he can just beat someone when he had the element of surprise there. He could have easily been able to fight toe to toe with him at that point. So Izuku decides to just jump out of the way of Katsuki's punch, and then when he does that, he actually jumps up and spins around and throwing a kick into Katsuki's face with so much force it rolls him onto the ground hard. Now Abigail is watching from the shadows, and she knows she needs to intervene if it gets too violent or dangerous. With that, the boomer, yes, I'm using it again, gets up quickly with nothing but pure rage in his eyes. He dashes forward to Izuku using his explosion. He then copies Deku's spin kick. You know how Deku or Izuku, since I accidentally put Deku here instead of Izuku, copied Kachan in the anime? Like, it's the reverse here. He's copying Izuku because Izuku actually has the knowledge he doesn't. He then uses the momentum to try to kick Izuku, but as it was about to land, the barrier finally activated with like swish sound like a lightsaber, just because I think that sound would be cool. As it protected Izuku by forming around him and absorbing basically the kinetic energy from Katsuki's kick, it basically sent him flying back. From that, then Izuku just gave a biggest smirk he could. He started running up to Katsuki, with him getting back up now. Now he's just lost in a berserker rage at this point. He starts just flinging explosions at Deku, and his berries absorbing them and containing. It's either containing them, absorbing them, or making them weaker. And as he gets closer and closer to Katsuki, he just punches him in the stomach, enough to cause him to cough up and spit up some of his breakfast that he had. Now, while he was holding his stomach in pain, Izuku, without hesitating, turned all that energy that he collected into a blast shot out of the bracer, and it knocks Katsuki dead cold out. But Izuku realizes something. He's wheezing even worse than he was, since he realized he didn't account for a device's physical strain like this on his body even as a child. And he kind of guessed it, but this was way more intense than what should have happened. Now, while this was happening, we're coming back to Abigail because she was watching in shock at how amazing that device was and how he used nothing but junk parts and he was able to make something like that. And her only thought was how this world saw him. His potential was being doubted and wasted, was even not being looked at, all because he had no quirk. In her mind, the society is just worthless and flawed. She then sees Izuku just pass out. She jumps down from the tree she was spying from, and she goes and picks up both of the boys. Now, Izuku's starting to wake up to see a waiting room, realizing he's like in a hospital or something. But then he realizes he's in someone's lap. Because of that, he literally looks up with his eyes because he just darts them all open. And in a kind of a shocked state, he realizes it was Mrs. Abigail. And she's stroking his head, particularly his hair, and he starts to blush kind of intensely at her and then she says, "Oh, you're awake, young Master Midori. How was your nap?" He then looked around to see Katsuki in a chair passed out as well in the waiting room. He took a look at Abigail and said to her, am I fine? And I'm fine, and could you just call me Izuku? That master stuff is uncomfortable. She signs beautifully and just saying, okay, then young prince should just do fine. And just hearing that with her smile, it kind of makes his heart beat out of his chest. He's been kind of realizing his feelings for the other girls at this point. He realizes, like, oh crap, now I'm in love with Abigail too. I'm like, what kind of idiot heart do I have? Like, I feel this way for Hanabi, and she really should be the only one for me. But I really do feel this way for the other girls too. But I don't know how to put them in words. Is it really what most people tell me it is, that I love them? Well, I do have dreams where we're hanging out and being friends and stuff. And for a while there was Hanabi and Abigail, but ever since the other girls came in my life, they've been showing up in them as well. As for some reason, I don't know why. I kind of need to get my emotions straightened out. So he thinks it's best to stop thinking about it for right now. But when he tries to sit up and the pain that shot through him like a rifle because of his strain on his body, he was quickly stopped and laid back down by Abigail, which caused him kind of a blush since she got put back in her lap. He did get a little happy on the inside. He will admit to that. Then he asks the important question. So, have you called my mom and Katsuki's mom? She then says, nods to me saying, yes, your mom did sadly answer her phone, but I left her a message. But Miss Bakugo, sorry, my excuse, sorry, she said she'd be here soon. You might want to get your story straight for her. And now I gotta do Katsuki's mom dirty in this. I'm sorry, like everyone. I actually really do love her character, but this is how the story has to go with her character. I apologize. So Izuku then starts to frown and saying, "If I get charged, would you think the Applin family would help me? Because I'm worried about it." And Abigail gave him quite a confused look, and he had to sigh and explain his mom, pointing at Katsuki, is the reason why he really bullies quirkless people, because she really thinks they are weak and worthless. And even if I tell the truth, she might try to charge me and throw me in jail or juvie or something for it. Just starting to think about it just makes me want to cry, because I had no choice but to defend myself against Katsuki, but now I might have ended up ruining my life. Abigail then notices this and says to me, don't worry, the princess's family would bury her and throw her in jail if she tries that. So just tell the truth and you start getting through, I will defend you. Now, she gives a kind smile, but there's something sadistic he feels behind it. It's easy but weird feeling because of that sadistic edge. But he also starts realizing he feels weird himself. Like, he's gotten stronger for some reason, and he just can't explain it. Now, while he's trying to get lost in thought, just trying to figure it out, basically on cue, Katsuki's mom just bursts through the door. She turns to see her son passed out in a chair. She then sees Izuku sitting in some strange teenage maid's lap, runs up and tries to grab him, but Abigail intervenes by grabbing her hand with so much force she thought she was going to lose it. She then looks at Izuku saying, what did you do to my son, you worthless piece of trash? Katsuki then finally woke up, saying hi to his mom, as he was still in pain, but when he turned to look at Izuku, the rage just rebuilt back up in his eyes and started to take over him. But Izuku, getting off of Abigail's lap, even though she didn't want him to because she was worried about him, decided to stand tall. Even though it hurt like hell to do it, he started to explain what happened, and Izuku got the response he thought he was going to get from Katsuki's mom. Seeing with rage, she starts shouting out, "You're garbage, and I'm going to get you arrested and thrown in jail where worthless trash like you belongs." As she goes for her cell phone, Abigail pulls out a card and walks up to her. And when Katsuki Moms reads it, she goes completely pale. Like she has just defied God and she's about to die. And Abigail spoke up to her, seeing this, and it was quite pleased with the reaction. She started stating, the prince is an innovator, an inventor, and we've been scouting him and hope to put him in training for the Applin company. And he was testing out this new product, and I was going to use it for his application. Now, I was hoping he was he's going to use it for his application. Now, after he was planning, I followed him because he was planning to do the first test run. So I was so curious when I saw it. But to be honest, he's telling the truth since Bakugo initiated the fight and he just used self-defense. You really have no leg to stand on, and I have video proof. She then pulls out a phone and starts playing a video, and she shows what happened to her son and Izuku. She then says, if you're both trying to place charges on the prince, since this is her new name for Izuku, I can assure you that both you and your son would be behind bars and juvenile detention, whatever it takes, within the next 48 hours. Plus, you're staying in a hospital that is owned by the Apple & Company, so I suggest you apologize to the prince, both of you. She finally points at Izuku, and when she finished speaking this, or this will be your fate, she gives the scariest smile he has ever seen. Izuku thought it beats anything his mom has done, and it is so weird feeling because he was kind of happy someone stand up for him, but her smile had this weird feeling of happiness behind it, like dark, evil happiness, and it just. He didn't know what the heck was going on at this point, so he just shook his head to see Katsuki's mom after looking back at her, forcing herself and Katsuki on the ground, even making him apologize profusely to him. She then grabbed him and left. It felt like a blessing to him. Just happened to him. Like, just all this crap went away just from one card. Abigail then turns to him and says, please let me take you home to make sure you get safe. I promised your mother, little prince. I promised a little bit, and I say okay, and then she takes me to the car and opens the door. She drives me home, but as I was about to get out, Abigail tells me to stop. She gets out and opens the door for me. And then she asks me a question. What time will both you and your mother be home tomorrow? I kind of gave her a puzzled look, then answer, my mom will be off early tomorrow, so about 5 p.m. She nods, and she walks me to my door, and once I open it, she's then saying goodbye to me and tries to turn to leave, but I kind of grab her arm. I kind of want to tell her something. And so I tell her, hey, don't tell Hinaba this, but I've been having dreams about her, you, and plus some other girls I know, which I know is really weird for my age. But I do want you to know I hope she's always doing well, since she's always kind of on my mind, including with them and you, too. To be honest, I probably would like to marry her one day. Even though I'm thinking I could think I could probably feel the same way about the others and you too, as he starts to puzzle a bit. But then he gets back on track and says, could you please keep this secret from her? I want to tell her and them myself, since I've already told you. She nods and she says it's fine with her, and she says it's fine. She's also okay with her being in his dreams, which causes him to blush a lot. And she says she'll keep the secret safe. And then he enters home and just decides to take a bath after seeing the food his mom left for him. He ate really quick and wrote down a note for his mom, basically, Inko, telling him that someone that helps out with the Hinabi family, which will be around 5 tomorrow. And he then goes to the room. He goes to the room and he quickly writes down what he's learned about the barrier device. Like, he has to make sure he has these notes. Then he puts a book down and passes out on the bed. As Abigail walked back to the car, she just sighed to herself because she thought, I can't believe people like that woman exist. Basically referring to Katsuki's mom in this world. Because if her son does not become the greatest villain in the world, it will be a miracle, she said to herself. She gets in the car, and as she's about to start, her phone rings and she realizes it's the princess number. She does smile very happily, but she realizes she has to sadly say what she's done, which is taking the prince's heart as well. She doesn't know why, but as usual, for this what if, hearts form in her eyes, and there's a rabbit being in her heart. She can't explain why, but then she thinks to herself when she has to explain all this, I think the dream line he gave me will save my butt. And she says to herself, I am so sorry, Izuku, but I have to break that promise immediately. Because she can't really lie to her. Because she'd feel wrong to do it. She then answers the phone, saying hello to the princess when she asks, what can I do for you? And then Hinabi then screams into the phone, and she has to pull it away from her ear because she that freaking out. What happened to my Izuku? I heard you took him to one of our hospitals. She then calms her down by just saying just let me explain so once she does that, it ends the conversation. So that's what happened to Izuku. I brought him there, and he's now home. She then heard the princess say, and kind of turn her blood cold. I turned that boomer boy into a pile of ash for harming my Izuku. Her killer intent was very apparent. Then I cleared my throat, saying, "Well, princess, I have good news and bad news. What would you like first?" She gives the bad, and Abigail just takes a deep breath and says, "Dang it." Then she says, "It seems like I've stolen Izuku's heart as well as some other girls he's met since he met you, and I will be honest, I have kind of fallen for him. After that, I kind of asked for some mercy, as the killing intent was now so great she could just feel it from where she was sitting. Then she heard, it depends on the good news. I said, well, I'll tell you Izuku's secret, but you must act surprised when he does tell you about it, princess." She then says to herself, "I'm sorry, Izuku, like she said before, but I did develop, I think, honest feelings for you. And after all, I used to say the person I would love was someone who is strong, smart, kind-souled, and good-hearted, and I could tease forever." Another reason is, hopefully with this, I get spared from the beautiful princess's wrath. I can hear Hanabi just in a clearly fiery tone voice, blushing, and Abigail's then found out, then was kind of weirded out by it, but then she said, "So what is the secret?" I smile and tell her that he dreams about you all the time since he met you. He always thinks about your well-being, and he even admitted he wanted to marry you. I thought that was very cute. And I think he has the same feelings for me and the other girls as well, but I thought I should let you know. At first, she heard nothing. It kind of made her scared, but when she heard the loudest squeal she's ever heard come from any woman or girl, she then gets what she wanted to hear, thankfully, that you've been forgiven. And if you do feel the same way, I will approve of the relationship with him, as there are laws that allow this stuff as well. But when it comes to those other girls, I gotta get proof. Because if they don't actually love him, like truly love him, it's a heck no to her. I start crying up. Abigail starts crying a bit, knowing that I could have a relationship with someone one day that I actually have some kind of feelings for, as well. She then heard Hinabi say, "It's okay. Come home, get mom the report. We'll talk about it. I kind of want to know what made you fall in love too, and those other girls. I need that info." So basically, she needs the deets. And with that, Abigail says okay and starts driving home. After the hang up, after hanging up, since this is now Hinabi's point of view, she says to herself, "I've never heard Abigail cry ever. She probably really does love him. I mean, I wanted him all to myself, but when she said that, it made me realize that having to share might not be so bad. But also, I want to know what the other girls are like. I need to read that report, or get Abigail to tell me, because at this point, I'll only let Abigail be with Izuku besides me right now until I get more info and truth. So I can tell she really wants it after all. She always said she wanted to fall in love with someone. Plus, I kind of want to know why it had to be Izuku. She then sighs as she goes back to her work, but she just can't do it. All she can think about is what Izuku told Abigail. So then she just runs into her room, grabs a pillow off her bed, and starts squealing into it, saying her beloved Izuku wanted to marry her, and he's always worried about her and thinks about her. She even, in his dreams, she told herself in this moment that he was the right one. Abigail may be an exception to those other girls too, but in her head, if any other girl tries without her approval, she will burn them to ash. To be honest, she might get angry, furious, or upset with Abigail and other people, but especially with Abigail, she's like a big sister to her. So even though I want to kill her in that moment with my anger, I then realized I had to kind of calm down. She figured out if she truly loved Izuku and not meant it as a she had to figure out if she truly loved Izuku and not meant it as a joke. And to her hearing her cry for the first time ever in her life was something convincing to her that she has feelings. She's always worn a stone face with a pretty smile to make people at ease, so she thinks to herself meeting Zuko, both of us, was a good thing. Plus, you could say it was like a test of true love that she put her through. Now, now we have to cut back to Abigail because she's currently riding the elevator and she's waiting for the door to open. She's getting the report all set up and ready so our lady can read it. So when the door opens, she just quickly walks up, goes to the home office and composes herself and knocks. Then on the door, she hears a very cheery, happy tone saying, "Come on in." When she enters, she sees Lady Ariel in her usual suit top with tight skirts and her high heels and leggings as usual. She then sees her sitting down in front of a computer with the evil, happy grin, the one she fears, but respects at the same time. She then approaches her with the report, and she just takes it from her hand. "You know, Abigail," she says to her, "I just love it when you can help millions of lives and then ruin one B-word's life and his business at the same time." She then gives a smile, and she starts reading the report. She flips the pages with each page flipping excitement. It seems as Zuko is getting bigger and bigger to her and more intriguing to her. But when she gets to the last page, she then sets it down and looks at Abigail and speaks, "So this boy, in your own words, at this very end, has been wasted and thrown away by a current society that doesn't deem him worthy to be useful. But I also want you to tell me what happened to the boy today. Have your own math, Abigail." Abigail then takes a deep breath and speaks. She basically says he was completely amazing in that fight. Even though he's learning martial arts very recently, he's already beginning to master it quickly. He has a genius level intellect, no, a god level intellect that has not been recognized and is beyond what most people could think. I'd say he could probably make everything we see in sci-fi into a reality. And he's also pretty cute and adorable, and I kind of wanted to squeeze and hold him. She then realized that last part was said out loud, and she actually turned red, with Lady Ariel just laughing out loud, then saying, "It seems he's stolen your heart, because I've never seen you show that kind of emotion in front of me. As long as it's okay with my little Hanaba, then I can get you both married to Azuki thanks to those quirk laws and those marriage laws and all that other stuff that was put in place. With our power, it'd be quite easy to get that all done." Abigail kind of nods and says she's okay with it since she's already gotten permission from the princess. But he has to be 15 before any of this can actually take effect. Lady Ariel just nods and says yes, but I want one last thing answered to me about these girls. Do they think you truly love him? Because if they do and get Hanabi's approval, I gotta get the one where Izuku has to marry 10 wives, which is the max. Abigail then nods before he's 21, by the way. That's the law. Abigail then nods and saying yes. She thinks they all love him beyond a normal reason, in my opinion. My lady. And with that, she then tells her to go get on pajamas. "I know you're having a girl talk with my Hanabi today." She then smiles, and as Abigail tries to leave, she gets stopped. And she turns around, and here's what Lady Ariel has to say. "Also, I will have the invitation ready tomorrow. Please make sure Izuku and his mother get it." Then Abigail nods and walks out of the room and heads to Hanabi's room. After going to her own room to get changed, she knocks on the door, and her little princess just grabs her, pulls her past their lab room, and I'll go in more detail in part 2 on that, into her own bedroom as she is plopped down by her on the bed, and then she dumps right next to me in the girliest tone she's ever heard her say, "You're spilling what made you fall in love with him." She then chuckles and says, then Abigail chuckles saying, "You want all of it or the short version?" And when Princess just raised her eyebrows, she just goes, "Okay, long version it is." I was thinking it started when I was following him, to be honest. Sister Mara wanted a report, I had to watch him. And when I watched him train his heart out in the dojo, it made me realize he was a hard worker and willing to push through anything for his goals in life. I saw that he was brilliant. When he was writing in his notebook, scavenging for parts, and even using that device, it just showed his intellect. What really made me think I fell for him is just For him was that fight with that boomer boy, honestly, today. He showed everything: his strength, his determination, his brilliance, and how he was cute when he was sleeping. I had him in my lap since he was clearly having a bad dream and I wanted to calm. So I was lightly rubbing his hair. It kind of made me realize that I wanted to kind of be with him. I know I'm 12 years older than him, but maybe one day when he's 15, I might convince him that I'm worth that. Now, with that, Hinabi was quite happy, but she also was a little low-key jealous of Abigail because then she just says out to her that's amazing. I kind of want to see that side of Izuku myself as well, but I'm going to have to give him a lap pill and hair pets. Or head pets, or whatever they're called. She says when I get along with him at all next time. So we'll be even. She says this while she giggles and gives a happy grin. The two of them talk for most of the night, and they also talk about the other girls. So Hinabi, or Princess, since this is still in Abigail's point of view, decides to tell her that if as long as she finds that they genuinely love Izuku, she's okay with it. So then Abigail finally makes them go to bed because it's time for them to turn in. Especially what she has to do tomorrow. The next day, she is at Izuku's house at 5 p.m. sharp, ringing the doorbell. She sees that Mrs. Midoriya has answered it. She then bows to her and says, "Hello, Lady Midoriya. I've brought you an invitation to a dinner from Lady Ariel. For tomorrow night, this dinner is non-formal, so you may wear whatever you like, and I hope it's suited to your taste. I'll be picking up in the car tomorrow to bring you here. So have a wonderful day." She then hands the invitation and walks away. Okay, guys, this is on part one because honestly, I really just wanted to get most of the script that I had written and edited just done today. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I'm going to try to do more what ifs and more script stuff. As I said again, just leave a comment, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. And I'll at least tell you guys, I would like to at least get to 100. Not that fast, but sometime soon. So I hope you guys have a great day. This is Last Guardian. Peace out.